Today I'm going to show you how to set your timing on a Juki 1541S. So other models are similar, but you want to definitely pull up your manual to see if the needle bar height specs are any different, and that's where we'll start, setting your needle bar height, and then we'll get into setting the rotary hook. Now here's my disclaimer. There's a few problems with the sewing machine that will make it look like your timing is off even when it's not. So at the end of the video I'll list some of those so you don't inadvertently adjust your timing settings when you don't need to. Rock that hand wheel back and forth a bit to establish the bottom dead center position, and once you have that, you can make a little card stock with the dimension required for your machine to know how far to set that needle bar out of the machine. For the Juki DNU-1541S, it happens to be 56.55 millimeters. This one looks very close. I just need to lower the needle bar a scotch. Under the side cover of your machine, you'll find this screw here that secures the needle bar. That'll actually move up and down as you move the hand wheel. So get a screwdriver that fits quite well and just go ahead and loosen up that needle bar clamp. Just a little bit. Okay, that will physically let you move your needle bar up and down to set it to the exact height that you want it. Just be aware that the needle bar thread guide needs to always face the front, and there's nothing keeping the needle bar in that position. There's no flat on it, so you have to manually hold that in place as you retighten that clamping screw. We'll set that right to our dimension. Hold it steady as we retighten the screw, and this step will be done. Double check that, and then we'll snug that screw up tightly. Looks good. And then just confirm that no hard parts hit as you raise the presser feet by hand at that bottom dead center position. If you raise it by knee, the presser foot will contact the needle bar, but again, when you're removing material from the machine, the needle will be more like that. And now we'll pull a few parts off the machine to be able to set that hook timing. Start by setting your stitch length regulator to 0. Take off your slide plate and the throat plate. Remove the feed dogs, and these ones were kind of stubborn, so that's where a little stubby screwdriver really helps. There we go. And I would never put them back on with much force, but just a wrench to break them loose. Okay, just 2 screws and the feed dog will come off. Then find your bottom dead center position again. Sometimes it helps if you just put your finger on it. And what you want to do is notch your card stock so that it's 2.15 millimeters shorter on that side, which for this machine is 54.4 millimeters. And that's the position when you raise it up, hand wheel towards you, 2.15 millimeters higher, that the hook should be directly at the needle. This one looks good. It's perfectly aligned right next to the needle. It's actually in the scarf of the needle, which is what you want. And if yours isn't, I'll show you how to adjust that. So as you tip the head back, there's an oil reservoir underneath this model, and this is the little oil plug you need to remove. That will give you access to a couple of Allen screws in there. You'll loosen that gear up and it'll free the hook so you can make this adjustment. Now there's a couple of screws up by the rotary hook, and we'll use that in a minute to set the spacing between the hook and the needle. That's the only way you'll use those, but what you want to avoid is loosening these screws to try to set the rotary hook position, simply because you'll no longer be on the flats on that shaft, and if you hit a jam in the future, it'll throw your timing out quite easily. And we'll pop that oil plug out. A word of warning, you always want to replace that before you lower the machine head. Again, see if you can break those screws loose. It's a 3 millimeter Allen key. Just loosen them enough that you can slightly rotate the hook, but you don't want it to spin freely. You'll need to turn the hand wheel a little bit to access that second screw. There we go. Let's see if we can break that one loose too. Yeah, not too bad. I'm telling you, replace that oil plug. You don't want an oily mess underneath. Reset the machine to the timing position so you're at bottom dead center, and then continue rolling that hand wheel towards you until the needle bar is raised up that 2.15 millimeters. And that's precisely where your machine should be in time. In other words, this tip of the rotary hook should be even with the needle, and it's not. It's just too far advanced. It's already crossed the needle at the timing position. So what I've done is I've loosened those 2 screws underneath, so this should allow me to move the rotary hook slightly, Of course, unplug your machine anytime you're near the rotary hook, but we'll just rotate that back, making sure the machine doesn't shift as far as the hand wheel position, and align that hook tip perfectly with the needle. And that's what I'm looking for, just so the tip of the rotary hook is just adjacent to the needle. Looks good. Now, of course, you need to be able to tip the head back to lock in those settings, and what you'll find is the drive belt to the hand wheel may just rotate the hook position slightly, so you'll want to remove your drive belt before doing this operation. And that should bring one screw in view, at least close to access. Sometimes I like to use a ball end Allen wrench just to get a little bit of tension on one of those before I rotate it and recheck the hook. Okay, check 1, we're still in the timing position. Check 2, the hook point is directly adjacent to the needle, so we're going to lock it in and tighten up those screws. And for that, I can rotate the hand wheel anywhere I need and use a wrench like this to get a little better leverage. Nice. And because this machine has a safety clutch, that's not going to come loose. It'll pop the safety clutch before it ever breaks that position. And if you forgot at least once in this process to replace that oil plug, I would say, welcome to the club. It's an oil change. We did a proactive oil change on our machine. And when you do top up your machine's oil, just remove this little plug, and you can use any zoom spout just to fill up the oil level in that reservoir between the low and the high mark on the glass. Then finally, take note of the spacing between the hook and the needle, which should be between 0.02 and 0.05 millimeters. For reference, a post-it note is about 0.08 millimeters. Now technically that's to the needle shank and not the scarf, where in the timing position the hook is actually passing the scarf, but in functional terms we just want the hook as close to the needle as possible without physically touching it. And for that, locate the 2 screws on the hook and loosen those slightly to maintain some friction, and slide the hook left or right to adjust the spacing. And looks like my other screw is actually missing, but luckily the one on the flat is right there. And now I can move that hook a bit side to side to get my spacing where I want it. Need to loosen that screw just a little bit more, but the beauty of that is it'll maintain my hook timing even as I slide this side to side. Here the hook is actually contacting the needle. I can hear and feel it, so the hook is too far to the left. And this would be considered a giant gap. The hook is way too far from the needle, so it needs a little further adjustment. And like everything else with setting the hook timing, it's just critical that you just leave enough tension on your screws that you can make real-time adjustments. Tap that over and retest. We're still too far away. We'll keep tapping it over. And again, you're going to maintain your rotary hook timing. You're just setting the spacing here. Listen and feel. Looks like I'm clearing. Spacing is getting pretty good. We'll tighten that up and test it out. And that's what I settled on. Almost no physical space between the tip of the hook and the needle, but it's not contacting either. And just tighten up that screw and then rotate it. Normally you'd have a second screw. I've got one I need to order for my machine. Sometimes it helps to give a little backlight to double check your hook spacing, and once that's all snugged up and you've confirmed that nothing shifted, you can reassemble your machine. This is a great time to clean out any lint or debris down around the hook. Make sure to put your stitch length back to a normal operating range and hold your threads back a bit and test your machine out. It should sew more quietly, more smoothly, and form a nice balanced stitch. Test it at different speeds and with frequent direction changes, and if you're happy with it, call it a successful repair. Looks good. I always sew a couple lines around my test swatch and then try a back tack, make sure everything plunks down into the same holes, and finish up any other adjustments I have on the machine, and then do some high-speed testing. Earlier I mentioned there were some things with the sewing machine that can go wrong that would mimic your timing being off, but it's actually a different problem entirely. Those from simple to complex are things like the needle is not inserted fully into the needle bar. Your needle is just bent. A simple problem like that will prevent your machine from picking up the lower thread or sewing. So you want to replace the needle, make sure it's inserted fully, and rethread the machine from top to bottom before you make any adjustments to the timing on your machine. And there's other problems you want to look for as well. The key one being that your safety clutch is popped. If that's the case, or you think that might be an issue, look for my video on that topic. Alright, so setting the hook timing on your machine is really not that difficult if you have some basic tools and a little bit of patience. And if this video saved the day for you, please do give me a thumbs up on the video and consider subscribing to the channel. I love hearing from you as well, so feel free to drop me a line in the comment section. And if you're researching a 1541 to potentially get one for yourself, I'll put a link down in the description.